Hello and welcome. You're watching The Buck Stops Here, and our top political story on the program tonight. Just yesterday we were discussing whether Asaduddin Owaisi saying he refuses to chant Bharat Mata Ki Jai makes him any less patriotic than any other Indian. Remember, Owaisi triggered the debate by saying that even if you put a knife to my neck, I will not say this slogan, but I'm happy to say Jai Hind. Now, an MLA of his party, Waris Pathan, has been suspended from the Maharashtra Assembly, a decision taken, by the way, unanimously by all parties that included the Congress and the NCP, after he stood up on the floor of the House and said he would not say Bharat Mata Ki Jai. Is this really patriotism, or is this now politics masquerading as patriotism? Let's introduce on our program tonight, we've got GVL Narasimha Rao, senior leader of the BJP. With me in the studio is Sharmishta Mukherjee of the Congress. In a moment from now, we'll be talking to Imtiaz Jalil, MLA of the AIMIM. But also today, the really important thing to focus on this program is that while the Congress takes a very different position on nationalism from the BJP in Delhi, with Rahul Gandhi even going to JNU, in the assembly, senior leader of opposition Vicky Patil, Radhakrishna Vicky Patil, was actually among those leaders who asked for the suspension. GVL Rao, your first reactions. Should an MLA be suspended because he refuses to say Bharat Mata Ki Jai?
Barkha, it's not just that. I think an attempt is being made by certain political parties, mainly the MIM in this case, to somehow to make such statements that create some kind of a doubt in the minds of people, to in a way tell people not to be patriotic. Nobody has put a gun to him and asked him to say Bharat Mata Ki Jai. I think, why did the issue come up in the first place? I think Owaisi is trying to create a constituency, and possibly he wants to feed on certain anti-national sentiments that exist in certain pockets, and he wants to convert that into a political constituency by feeding on such, by making such statements, and by feeding on such. But
Mr. Rao, when you say that a gun isn't being held to anybody's head,
is condemnable.
But Mr. Rao, when you say a gun is not being held to anybody's head, when an MLA, an elected MLA, is suspended from an assembly simply for saying कि मैं आपके कहने पे भारत माता की जय नहीं बोलूंगा, is this patriotism or is this regimenting patriotism?
No, but for a party like MIM, which has no qualms and which talks about, we have seen what kind of incendiary speeches they have made in the run-up to the Lok Sabha elections and thereafter, and for a party that eulogizes Yaqub Memon, that takes out rallies in the name of Yaqub Memon, I think for them to make such statements is certainly feeding on anti-national forces in the country. And this cannot be, we cannot simply let this go on. I think an example needs to be made out.
And how do you see the Congress?
From the rest of the session.
I may or may not agree with you, but how do you see the Congress and the NCP support for this decision? Are you struck by the irony of it, GVL Rao?
No, I think for a while it had become sort of fashionable for political parties to side with even terrorists, terror organizations, to empathize with militants in the to somehow appease a particular community, and they have seen the political consequences of that. I think possibly from JNU experience, where Rahul Gandhi went and stood with people who raised anti-India slogans, or who were responsible for bringing people there and organizing an event where anti-India slogans were raised. Possibly the Congress and NCP, they possibly fear that they have actually got an anti-national tag, and possibly this is an attempt to somehow use this occasion to clean their faces.
Okay, Sharmishta, very quick response there. How do we make sense of what's happened in the assembly today? On the one hand, Rahul Gandhi is going to endorse JNU students. On the other hand, the Congress is actually supporting such a resolution. The party seems utterly confused. It looks like you want a slice of the nationalism pie. Quick first response, and I've got Imtiaz Jalil on the phone.
Firstly, Barkha, let me absolutely make it clear that even when Rahul Gandhi ji went, our stand was very clear that we are not supporting anyone who has raised any kind of anti-national slogan.
Okay.
But just because some students were there, to put sedition charges against them, it's state is
But does the central
upsetting.
leadership support the decision of what's happened in the assembly today? Does the central Congress support it?
We have made it very clear that, you know, even in the JNU issue also, that people, or if any student had raised anti-national slogans, you know, strong action should be taken against them.
So you're saying that there's no contradiction between the two positions. I don't agree with that, and we'll explore that in a moment from now. Imtiaz Jalil, MLA of the MIM, is with us. Imtiaz, the fact is that all the parties seem to be on one side today and your party seems to be on the other. Can you tell us that when Waris Pathan is accused of using derogatory language against the country, what that language was, what exactly happened according to you, and how do you see the Congress, the NCP, the BJP and the Sena all on one side?
Well, Barkha, let me tell you, today we saw the death of democracy in the house of the Maharashtra Assembly. Actually, it started when I was speaking in response to the governor's address. And while I was speaking and I was leveling some serious charges of corruption against the government and the mismanagement of the government, some of the BJP MLAs tried to stop me, and they said that I should first chant the slogan of Bharat Mata Ki Jai. I said, I will reply to you. And then I told them, the person of late who must have very proudly said Bharat Mata Ki Jai must have been Vijay Mallya while he was flying with 9,000 crores of Indian rupees. And he must have seen this country from over the skies, and he must have proudly said Bharat Mata Ki Jai. And who are the people who allowed him to go? These are the same people who were telling me in the assembly that I should be saying Bharat Mata Ki Jai. That was very ridiculous. And then when I finished the speech, again the BJP and the Shiv Sena MLAs, they stood up and they demanded that we chant the slogan of Bharat Mata Ki Jai. One or two leaders of the BJP, they were demanding my colleague Waris Pathan to say that first. And he said he was not on record. He has not been on record. He said, he told them directly that tere bolne ke upar, I am not going to say what you want me to speak.
Okay.
And suddenly, all of a sudden, the Congress, the NCP, the BJP, Shiv Sena, everybody, they got up and they made a huge hue and
So
cry.
how do you see this unanimity? Before I get GVL Rao to respond to what you're saying, how do you see this unanimity, Imtiaz? How do you see the Congress, which on one hand is supporting JNU students in Delhi and on the other hand being on the same side as the BJP in Maharashtra?
Exactly. Barkha, the thing is, I had very clearly said that we love this country, we respect this country, we have great honor for this country. And everybody knew that. We have been saying this all along in all the television debates that we have been attending. I said that in the assembly also. But all of a sudden, even we were surprised looking at the manner in which the Congress and the NCP reacted. In fact, they were the first ones to demand that the MLA should be suspended. When we went to the speaker, I told the speaker, you have all the right, you have the authority to suspend us, but please give us 2 minutes time so that we can go back in the assembly and explain our point of view, because even the Supreme Court gives an opportunity to the people charged with whatever.
So you're saying, Imtiaz, you're saying that the Congress and the NCP were the first parties to ask for the suspension?
No, in fact, it was, in fact, when the BJP started, suddenly all of a sudden the NCP and the Congress also stood up. And they also demanded at the same time, when the BJP and the Shiv Sena...
I'll put that to Sharmishta in a moment. GVL Rao, what would you say to what you've heard Imtiaz Jalil say? What has he said that is so objectionable that his party MLA should be suspended? Your question to Imtiaz Jalil, Mr. Rao.
Barkha, I think the best answer to Mr. Owaisi's statements came from Mr. Javed Akhtar in Parliament yesterday.
Yes.
I think their attempt, MIM's attempt to somehow make such statements and communalize the atmosphere for vote bank politics has been rebuffed by the people of their own community, leaders from their own community. And now you have so-called secular brigade also joining this, because you cannot simply carry on with your hate propaganda and use this slogan of the patriotic slogan of Bharat Mata Ki Jai. Use this as an objection to saying anything positive.
But Mr. Rao, should it be met with suspension? There can be a disagreement. There can be a disagreement, but should an MLA be suspended for it?
I think the speaker is in the best position to take a call like this, and I think I have still not seen the entire sequence of events that happened inside the assembly First of all, they are not telecast, and whatever facts are available, it was a unanimous decision of all parties. So obviously, he had used certain derogatory language to warrant such a suspension.
Let me put that
so
to
I don't
Imtiaz.
think, and this is only for a few days. And they are trying to really show that they are martyrs in this kind of a decision by the speaker. But the public mood in this country, including that of even minorities, is that these kind of attempts at politically trying to canvass certain slogans to create a constituency, to create a political constituency, has been completely condemned by the people of the country.
Imtiaz, a quick response there from you. That Javed Akhtar being quoted by the BJP today. Javed Akhtar, of course, took on Asad Owaisi in Parliament, and Javed Akhtar actually said Bharat Mata Ki Jai in Parliament. He also spoke about how the Constitution does not ask Asad Owaisi to wear a sherwani and a topi, and he's condemned his statements on all fronts. How do you respond to this, Imtiaz? And then I want to get Sharmishta in on the Congress and NCP doublespeak here.
Barkha, let me tell you, we have never been objecting to any type of slogans. You remember the last time when the MNS demanded that there should be national anthem played before the start of a movie. We said movie is not the place to show your patriotism, and then they charged us that we are anti-nationals. We have all the right to express our opinions. We have never objected. The only thing is why we said it, because it was Mohan Bhagwat from the RSS who said, in connection with the JNU incident, that the time has come for the country to teach Bharat Mata Ki Jai. The question is the country being run by Mr. Mohan Bhagwat and his RSS, or is the country being governed by an elected?
But you know, Imtiaz, the fact is that today you cannot make this only about Mohan Bhagwat and the BJP, because as you said, the Congress and the NCP asked for this. What would you say to Sharmishta Mukherjee, who's sitting here in the studio with me, Imtiaz, of the Congress?
No, even I am surprised and I have no words to express. Like how could they? Because they were the ones who actually supported. Just 2 days back, when there was some discussion going on, they supported Rahul Gandhi going to the JNU students. In fact, they have mentioned Kanhaiya so many times. And all of a sudden, when they are doing the same thing, when we are trying to express our views on the same topic in a manner in which we feel needs to be expressed, they are objecting to it. So the double standards have been exposed. And it's absurd, like how could they do that? But all of them got together. It's really very surprising. And I saw the death of democracy today in the house of the Maharashtra Assembly.
Death of democracy, says Imtiaz. Imtiaz, stay with us. We actually have Mr. Vicky Patil, the leader of the opposition, Congress leader Sharmishta. So you need to listen to him very carefully. Mr. Patil, why did you end up on the same side as the BJP today? Why did you ask for the suspension of the MIA MLA Waris Pathan?
Hey, I think there has been some contradictions which have been coming to you as well, because there was a common conscience in the House. But what we demanded was that he should tender an apology as to what the remarks were made. This was a conscious decision within the party, number one. But number two, the members, basically BJP and from the Sena, have been agitating for his suspension. And the proposal was, the resolution was moved by the legislative affairs minister from the BJP.
But you supported it. You supported that resolution. You also asked for it. You're saying it was unanimous.
No, the resolution was because the majority of the House was for the resolution. But Congress party had demanded an apology from the member, Mr. Waris Pathan, about his remarks.
What did you want him to apologize for? What did he say? He said, I will not say Bharat Mata Ki Jai because you asked me to. Why is that wrong for you?
He said, I will not say Bharat Mata Ki Jai. And I think the entire House, from all the cross-section of the party, within the Maharashtra Assembly, there was a common consciousness about basically the Congress party was not concerned to what he has expressed. The issue was that he should basically the motion for suspension was the idea which was mooted by the ruling party benches, not by the Congress party.
And I get that technical difference, but you supported it. You're saying that. Mr. Patil, stay with us. Sharmishta Mukherjee, how do you explain this? At this moment, till this moment, BJP was the one you accused of playing politics with patriotism. Today, the Congress has done exactly the same.
Now, what I could understand from what Mr. Patil said, that it is the ruling party which actually moved the resolution.
But he supported it.
And what he's saying that Congress demanded an apology from Mr. Pathan.
And you heard Imtiaz saying the Congress first asked for the action.
That is what he is saying.
Yes.
That is what he is saying. But, as we haven't seen, I haven't seen the proceedings of the House, so I am in no state to comment that. I would go by what Mr. Patil is saying, that, it is the ruling party which has asked for, and Congress had asked for an apology. But I would like to tell you, Barkha, that in Congress we do not need to prove our nationalism, our celebration of diversity to anybody.
Yeah.
That is our ideology. That is our part of our system.
What is the difference today in the ideology of the Congress and the BJP and the Sena and the NCP in the way that you have responded in the House?
You had been continuously equating this situation with JNU. But even in JNU also, from the very beginning, we had been very strongly saying that anybody raising any kind of anti-national slogan should be strongly dealt with. Because we believe we are.
To me, it sounds like everybody just wants a slice of the nationalism pie, which has now become a political pie. Imtiaz, you're hearing what Vicky Patil is saying. He's saying we didn't ask for the suspension, we only asked for an apology. What would you say to him?
Barkha, I just heard somebody saying that there was a derogatory comment. Now, everything is recorded in the assembly, in the parliament. The electronic media has all the clippings. I would appreciate if those clippings could run, because what he said, if that is derogatory, then I am surprised to what they are trying to say. Waris Pathan, what he said was, when he was being asked, pressurized by some of the MLAs to say first, chant the slogan of Bharat Mata Ki Jai, he said, I will not say it if you are saying that, if you are telling me to say that. If that is derogatory, and it was not on record. And after that, when the Halla Gulla started, all the BJP and the Shiv Sena MLAs, they heraud us while we were sitting, and they were demanding that we should chant that slogan. So actually we were seeing some type of a Gundaraj also happening in the assembly, and that is very surprising and shocking
Imtiaz, they objected to your saying that you do not want taxpayers' money to be spent on building memorials, and they said that this means you're objecting to the Chhatrapati Shivaji memorial. That is how it was perceived in the House, according to all of them.
Barkha, yes, yeah, exactly. Barkha, a few days back on the first day of the session, when the governor gave the introductory speech in the assembly, his speech, he started his speech not with the farmers' society, not with the problems facing the state. He started his speech. The first 2 pages of his speech were all about where the government is going to build statues, where they are going to build memorials, how much money they are going to spend. So I said, in fact, I ended my speech by saying, what is the point? I pay taxes to the government to give me good electricity, roads. I want the farmers' problems to be solved. Why are you using my money to build statues of leaders of BJP, of leaders of Shiv Sena? Why don't the BJP and the Shiv Sena leaders, if they want to build a memorial in the name of their leader, collect money? If you want, I will also donate for that. But don't use public money for building memorials and statues, because the Maharashtra now needs good hospitals, good infrastructure.
Let me just get Mr. Patil to come in there. Mr. Patil, the debate on memorials is perhaps a different one. But my question to you today is, by supporting this resolution, have you not shown that on this nationalism debate, the Congress and the BJP have identical positions? How does the Congress in Delhi explain that on one hand you criticize the BJP for regimenting patriotism, on the other hand you want the political benefits of that as well?
I think I think the situation, if you see in the House, as a Congress party, it was basically not the issue of the Congress party. The issue which was raised by the AIMIM member, I think it was out of context, which was he said. But finally, we took a position that he should apologize for the remarks which he had made, number one. But the suspension proposal which was brought by the BJP, there was a common by the ruling party. There was common consciousness within the party also. Yes, there has been, because the issue of nationalism, ultimately, we are mixing the issues at the central level, what happened in JNU and other issues which have been connected to this kind of issue. Now here, the situation is very different in the Assembly of Maharashtra. The situation is very different. We don't have talk, when we talk about national scenario, the party stand, yes, we are in the party stand. We don't have a different stand here in the Maharashtra Assembly. But when it comes to the state assembly issue, here the situation is very different altogether when we discuss this kind of issues in the House.
Okay, let me just get last comments from all of you now. Before I go to Imtiaz, Sharmishta, you keep saying that on JNU too, your position was if anyone has said something anti-national, take action against him. But the fact is that to all of us, it seems that patriotism has become the latest political commodity. All of you are trying to sell patriotism in the political market. There is no difference ideologically between any of you. I think that's what Maharashtra has shown today.
That is, Barkha.
You can disagree with Owaisi, you can disagree with Imtiaz, you can say that they're playing politics to their constituency, they're playing to their own gallery. But to suspend an MLA, do you agree with that?
Barkha, as a Congress spokesperson and also as an individual, I would like to say you are most welcome to hold your view. But what I would like to say as a Congress spokesperson and as Sharmishtha, that in Congress we do not need certificate about patriotism, about nationalism, about celebration of diversity from anybody.
Yeah.
Because that is how the party has been formed. That is why we have over the years, it is in our DNA. The celebration of diversity, the celebration of plurality in India. So the issue is how you put it in context. You are most welcome to have your own interpretation. Anybody is most welcome to have theirs.
So you
we
stand
have got
by,
enough
does the
flexibility.
central party leadership stand by what your state leadership has done today in Maharashtra?
That is, again, I need to understand it in the proper context, because what Mr. Patil is saying, that how the procedure was there, it was something completely different, so it cannot be just decontextualized and debated over a television studio. So I need to understand what has happened.
Well, I think you're in a difficult position. You probably can't say what you really think. Imtiaz Jalil, last word to you. You and Waris Pathan met with Devendra Fadnavis, the Chief Minister of Maharashtra. Has there been any assurance from his side?
No, in fact, we wanted to meet the Chief Minister, but finally we ended up meeting the Speaker of the House, and we explained to him. He was very much there in the House, and he said when this statement was made, not on record, how could the Speaker violate the law and take such a stringent action of suspending the MLA for the entire session? This is a very important session for everybody, because this is a budget session. Maharashtra farmers are dying every day. Yeah. We also want to raise the issues. But they were very adamant, and they said it's the unanimous voice of the House, and that is why they had to take...
But how do you see what Javed Akhtar said in Parliament about the position your party has taken?
Barkha, let me tell you, all this while we have never been objecting to any type of statements. In fact, we were charged that we don't respect the national anthem. Let me reiterate, we respect the national anthem. We love this country. We have great respect, love, honor for this country. The only thing is, let not RSS, BJP, Bajrang Dal, Shiv Sena, like-minded parties dictate terms.
But today, would you include the Congress in that list and the NCP?
Yeah. Definitely. From today onwards, we are also going to list the Congress and the NCP also in that list.
All right. We will leave it there. Imtiaz Jalil, Sharmishtha Mukherjee, Vicky Patil, before that GVL Rao. Thank you for joining us. Now, the Javed Akhtar speech that today all politicians who have taken a position against AIMIM are quoting. This is what Javed Akhtar had to say on Bharat Mata Ki Jai and Asaduddin.
एक साहब है जिन्हें ख्याल हो गया कि वो नेशनल लीडर है, हालांकि हकीकत ये है कि वो हिंदुस्तान की एक स्टेट आंध्रा, कि एक शहर हैदराबाद, कि एक शहर उस शहर के मोहल्ले के लीडर। उन्होंने ये कहा कि वो भारत माता की जय नहीं कहना चाहते, नहीं कहेंगे, इसलिए कि संविधान उन्हें नहीं कहता, संविधान तो उन्हें शेरवानी पहनने को भी नहीं कहता और टोपी लगाने को भी नहीं कहता। मैं ये जानने में इंटरेस्टेड नहीं हूं कि भारत माता की जय कहना मेरा कर्तव्य है कि नहीं, ये मैं जानना भी नहीं चाहता, इसलिए कि ये मेरा कर्तव्य नहीं, मेरा अधिकार। और मैं कहता हूं भारत माता की जय, भारत माता की जय, भारत माता की जय। कि कौन लोग, मैं इस बात को और उनके इस ख्याल को जितने सख्त वर्ड मुमकिन है जो एक्सपंज न हो उनमें कंडेम करता हूं, और मैं इतनी ही सख्ती से एक और नारे को भी कंडेम करता हूं जो अक्सर हिंदुस्तान के शहरों में बोला जाता है, मुसलमान के दो स्थान, कब्रिस्तान या पाकिस्तान, मैं उसे भी कंडेम करता हूं।
You're watching The Buck Stops here, and our other big story tonight, the story of Shaktiman. India has responded with horror and outrage to these images that you see on your screen of a wounded horse. But now, as everybody pays lip service to this animal, the truth of the matter is, as Shaktiman suffers silently, it's the political noise that's taken over. In fact, it's politics riding on the back of this injured horse. And what we're asking today is who's to blame, because both the Congress and the BJP are now playing politics. The BJP MLA Ganesh Joshi, of course, is going on insisting that while he was wielding a lathi, he did not use that lathi on the horse. But what the pictures do show clearly is another protester in the same crowd actually yanking at the cop who's sitting on top of the horse, and the horse then falling. The Congress, of course, is playing its own politics, claiming that this represents the intolerance of the BJP. What about the poor horse, the animal who suffers silently as the political noise reaches the crescendo? Meanwhile, Union Minister Maneka Gandhi, who is of course known for her animal rights activism, has issued a very, very strong statement saying that the BJP MLA Ganesh Joshi should be expelled. Her statement says the entire BJP has come into disrepute because of Ganesh Joshi's actions. The MLA should be expelled from the BJP without delay. So this demand coming from within the government, from an animal rights activist, but also Union Minister Maneka Gandhi. Let's introduce our panel now. With me in the studio is Gauri Maulekhi. Gauri is, of course, a very well-known animal rights activist, but she's also an advisor to the Union Minister Maneka Gandhi. From the BJP central leadership, we're joined by GVL Narasimha Rao, the party spokesperson. From the Congress, and Mishra Mukherjee is with us here in the studio. Joining us from Dehradun tonight is the controversial lathi-wielding MLA Ganesh Joshi, who insists still that he's innocent, and Shobha Dey, well-known author and commentator, is with us. Let me start with you, Gauri. We've seen a very, very strong statement from the minister. The MLA keeps insisting, and he's here, कि मैंने लाठी नहीं मारी, मैंने लाठी पकड़ी थी, लेकिन मैंने घोड़े पे नहीं मारी, मैंने शक्तिमान में नहीं मारी. But the demand from you, from the minister, from other activists is this MLA needs to be punished. Where do you hold the MLA responsible given the competing videos that have come out on social media?
Well, there is no competition among the evidence available. There is clearly evidence that this lathi was wielded on the entire crowd, especially with horses right in front of the MLA. The consequence of that lathi charge was that the horse started backing off. And that's when the accomplices and the other people with the MLA started yanking, like you said, and actually pulled at the saddle, which came loose. And hence the rider fell, and that's when the horse...
So let me understand what you're saying. You're saying that even though Ganesh Joshi may or may not have used that lathi on the horse, the very fact of waving a lathi so close to the animal frightened him, got him to retreat, and that's how he tripped.
Yeah, there's actually two things. The horse was attacked with the lathi again and again. About 5-6 blows from the front were delivered by the MLA, and later on,
you are saying there's evidence of that, because he denies this.
There is not just evidence. There are witness accounts. There is the senior officers, the DM of Dehradun, the chief veterinary officer, a whole lot of other officers were present there, and they have corroborated the same thing. We've spoken to all the officers who were there. There were thousands of people. This is not something that happened in a closed room. There were thousands of eyewitnesses. After having attacked the horse, and this horse is a well-trained one, it's been serving in the police force for a very long time. It was well in control of the rider, and it started backing off instead of reacting. This horse was not provoking the crowd in any manner whatsoever. So while backing off onto the shoulder of the road, its leg got stuck, and simultaneously when it was being, challenged from one side and the rider was kind of falling onto one side, that's when the incident happened.
So you're saying the provocation was undoubtedly the lathi?
Completely. Although the same lathi may not have hit the site of the wound, but it was completely responsible. Had it not been for Mr. Joshi's actions, that horse would have been standing on 4 legs.
गणेश जी, आप इस पे रिस्पॉन्ड दें. यहाँ पर हमारे साथ गौरी मौलिकी हैं. ये देहरादून की एनिमल राइट्स एक्टिविस्ट हैं. ये मेनका गांधी की एडवाइजर भी है, और ये पीपल फॉर एनिमल्स के साथ ट्रस्टी हैं. ये कहती हैं कि चाहे आप ये आर्ग्यूमेंट कर दें कि वो लाठी मैंने उस जगह नहीं मारी जहां वो चोट पहुंची घोड़े को, क्योंकि आपने लाठी मारी, क्योंकि आपने लाठी दिखाई, जानवर डर गया, जानवर पीछे हटा. आपके साथ जो सहयोगी थे, उन्होंने जो पुलिस अफसर बैठा था घोड़े पे उसको खींचा, और घोड़ा डर के मारे गिर गया. अगर आपने वो लाठी नहीं दिखाई होती, आपने इतने करीब जानवर के, तो वो शक्तिमान आज 4 लेग्स पे खड़ा होता.
देखिए, जो लाठी की घटना है और जो दुर्घटना हुई है, उस घटना में 20 मिनट का अंतर है. सबसे पहले तो आप ये सुन लीजिएगा. और 2 वीडियो को क्लब करके एक कॉन्स्पिरेसी के तहत हमारे कांग्रेस के मित्रों ने
ये कांग्रेस की नहीं है,
सोशल
ये तो
मीडिया
आपकी सरकार की मंत्री की एडवाइजर हैं, अपने अपने हक में एनिमल राइट्स एक्टिविस्ट।
मुझे मालूम है ये कौन है, मैं पर्सनली जानता हूं, लेकिन ये वो देख रही हैं, मैं जानता हूं ये वो कह रही हैं जो उनको दिखाया गया है, जो दोनों चीजें क्लब करी गई हैं। दोनों घटनाओं में जब मेरे एक कार्यकर्ता का सर घोड़े ने इस प्रकार कुचल दिया, अगर देख रहे हैं, आप दिख रहा है आपको क्या?
जी हम कैमरा पे जूम इन करके दिखाते हैं, हम आपको कैमरा पे जूम इन करके दिखाएंगे, आप बताइए। दिख रहा है हमें, दिख रहा है।
जब मैं धरने पर बैठा हुआ था
जी,
मुझे पता लगा कि घोड़े द्वारा कि हमारे कार्यकर्ता का सर कुचल दिया है
जी,
मैं वहां पर आया, मैंने एक पुलिस बैंड की लाठी लेकर उनको जमीन में फटकारा और उसके बाद जाके फिर धरने पर बैठ गया।
ये लाठी आई कहां
और
से?
जब ये घटना हुई,
आप क्या धरने में लाठी लेके घर से निकले थे?
ये पुलिस वाले नहीं मैडम, ये मैंने पुलिस वाले से ही छीनी है, ये पुलिस वाले से ही मैंने लाठी छीनी है।
ओके।
और उसके बाद मैं फिर जाकर धरने पर बैठ गया। उसके 20 मिनट के बाद ये घटना हुई
जी,
और आज घटना का कारण ही पता लग गया, वो जिस एंगल में वो फंसा था और जिस टाइम ये घटना हुई 20 मिनट के बाद पूरी पिक्चर में मैं कहीं पर नहीं हूं, लेकिन दोनों वीडियो को क्लब कर दिया गया, पूरे सोशल मीडिया पर, पूरे इलेक्ट्रॉनिक मीडिया पर उसको चला दिया गया।
आप कह रहे हैं कि आप इसकी कोई जिम्मेवारी नहीं लेते, आप कह रहे हैं मेरी गलती नहीं, मैं कोई जिम्मेवारी नहीं लूंगा।
देखिए देखिए मैं ये कह रहा हूं कि चाहे हमारे किसी कार्यकर्ता के अनजाने में दुर्घटना हुई, घोड़े को चोट लगी, मैं उसको देखने भी गया, हमारे प्रदेश के अध्यक्ष भी उसको देखने गए और हमने लिखित में एसएसपी को हमारे अध्यक्ष जी ने दिया। और मैं तो ये कहकर आया था कि देखिए अगर मैं खुद, मेरे घर में जो कुत्ता है स्ट्रीट डॉग है और कई स्ट्रीट डॉग्स का हमने खुद इलाज करवाया है, और मान लिया किसी अनजाने में किसी की वजह से अगर हुआ है, उसके बाद भी हमने कहा कि उसके लिए हमें खेद है, कष्ट है, क्योंकि वो बेजवान जानवर था, चाहे गलती किसी की थी, उसको सजा नहीं भुगतनी चाहिए थी जी। और उसके इलाज की जिम्मेदारी प्रदेश अध्यक्ष जी ने लिखित रूप में एसएसपी को दिया। और आज तो सारे चैनलों में साफ दिखाई दे रहा है कि उस घटना में मेरा कोई रोल ही नहीं है। 20 मिनट के बाद वो घटना हुई, लेकिन दोनों वीडियो को क्लब कर दिया गया।
Ganesh ji, let me get a quick response from Gauri and then I'll open it up for the panel. Gauri, the point being made by Ganesh Joshi, 20-minute gap, and the horse was actually basically suggesting that he ran over one of my colleagues, and that's why I took a lathi from a police officer.
No, there is absolutely no truth for it and no justification for it either. First of all, there was no 20-minute gap at all.
How do you establish that?
Because I have personally had a word with the authorities that were present there, and since I'm also secretary of the Dehradun SPCA and the DM happens to be the chairperson, we had a discussion. We first spoke, I spoke to every officer that was present there. There was no 20-minute gap. However, we do understand that the accused is going to try and slip away in some way or the other. Secondly, however, there may have been an accident. I don't even say that it's justified to have horses in a riot situation.
I was going to ask that why is the horse being used for crowd control? That in itself seems cruelty to me to begin with. And then
it's actually a remnant of a colonial era. There should have been riot control vehicles, you know, which are mechanized, and there should be no need for a horse.
But you do not accept that the MLA is saying that I actually ran to protect my colleague. You reject that. All right, I want to get GVL Rao, then Shobha, and then Sharmishta. GVL Rao, the critique is coming first not from the Congress but from an independent animal rights activist who also advises the Union Minister Maneka Gandhi. So you cannot call this a Congress conspiracy.
No, I don't know whom she advises in what role. I have no knowledge of that.
Well, I'm sure that she would have corrected me if I was wrong about her advising Mrs. Gandhi.
No, I don't keep track of all advisors to all ministers and all their organizations they are associated with.
Okay.
So you cannot take that as a... But our own party leadership, our own ministers have made these very sensitive comments, because anyone who sees an animal writhing in pain would certainly show empathy. And our party leadership, without politicizing the event, they have expressed such a great sensibility by making those remarks. But the facts that are emerging, but the information that is emerging from Uttarakhand is that I think animals were actually put in this conflict situation. They were used to attack the BJP protesters in a brutal manner.
What do you mean?
This was a political protest.
What do you mean?
Is there
You're questioning why the horses were there. You're questioning GVL why the horses were there.
Absolutely. There are horses in Delhi also.
Yes.
More than 40 horses are there in the Delhi police.
Yes.
Have you ever seen Delhi police using horses in Jantar Mantar to scare away protesters, to suppress them, to fight them brutally? I think this was happening in Dehradun itself. They could simply have used all the means that police uses to keep the protesters at bay.
Okay, that's a fair question. I think that's a fair question.
Motivation was
I think that's a fair
putting
question.
animals in such a conflicting situation was absolutely, I think Uttarakhand government must apologize. I want Chief Minister of Uttarakhand to apologize for being responsible for putting animals in this
If the Uttarakhand government apologizes, should Ganesh Joshi apologize as well? Because you can't have this situation जहाँ पे एक side की गलती है, दूसरी side की नहीं है.
Yeah, let me. You see, Barkha, I think the media, I think I should say this, jumps to conclusions as far as BJP is concerned. A nun, elderly nun, was raped in Kolkata. The entire media went to town accusing the BJP and the Parivar. And then what have you after 2 months? So
No,
lady
no,
on your
that
panel,
is not connected to
she
this,
said
Mr.
she has
Rao.
spoken to
This is not
officers.
about some conspiracy
They are
against the
officers of
BJP.
the same government, Uttarakhand government.
Okay,
How does one trust the opinion, a version given by government officers?
The fact is,
I think
Mr.
you
Rao,
cannot treat political protest in a
Mr.
brutal
Rao,
manner
Mr.
like
Rao,
this.
I agree
Let
with
there
you.
be proper
Mr. Rao, let me
evidence.
speak now. I agree with you when you say it really strikes me as weird that a police mounted on horses would be used to monitor a protest, a political protest. I agree with you on that. But I disagree with you if you suggest that legislators should be brandishing lathis near a helpless animal. मुझे दोनों तरफ गलती इसमें दिखती है. Shobha Day, what do you think?
No,
Why let me just get Shobha in and I'll get...
Barkha, just one sentence.
Okay, one sentence.
Just one sentence.
Okay.
No, if it is established, I think we have enough information from Uttarakhand BJP. Entire state leadership was present at the venue. It was a normal political protest.
Okay.
And they completely deny all these allegations. However, if you have a visual proof, as you have demanded in JNU, and this was happening under media attention in front of the state assembly, if the media has proof, I think the party would certainly take note of it.
Sir, two things,
and
sir.
certainly would
Okay,
consider
now let
proper
Shobha come
action.
in.
I cannot
Let
go
Shobha
by
come in.
some officer's version here.
Let Shobha come in, but I will say that there are two pictures that are quite unambiguous. One, that Mr. Joshi had a lathi, जो वो कहते हैं मैंने घोड़े पे नहीं मारी, and दूसरा, that a protester along with Mr. Joshi is actually yanking at the cop who is sitting on the horse, और वो घोड़ा पीछे हट के गिर जाता है. Shobha, go ahead.
I'm a little surprised at the tone of this debate. What Mr. Rao just said, was it like a cavalry charge? Is it the charge of the Light Brigade? He talked about animals being used to intimidate protesters. Yeah. It's absurd. It's not a matter of whether there was a 20-minute lapse or not. If Mr. Joshi feels that the entire media has conspired against him, he can always sue whoever he thinks for defamation and clear his name. But it's not about that. This horse is a police horse, has been with the police force for over 10 years. To me, it's as good as an assault on a policeman. Quite honestly, it's a horse on duty.
Yeah.
There is no provision in law to look after this injured animal now that the animal cannot be back on duty.
Yeah.
I believe there is no such provision, and the horse is more or less going to be, unless some kind humanitarian organization takes up, on behalf of this horse. To say that this man grabbed a police lathi is in itself something very provocative. I mean, how many MLAs do you know who will have the gumption, the guts to take law into their own hands, regardless, grab a policeman's lathi and charge an animal? I'm not even saying he attacked the animal, he says he hasn't.
Yeah.
Maybe he hasn't.
Yeah.
But a defenseless animal who has multiple fractures, what are we talking about? It's not a war between the BJP and the Congress and who's right, who's wrong. I also believe the streets were shut because there was a wedding in the family, and a lot of people there have written to me to say they were very inconvenienced. It was a situation which was not merely just a political protest.
Okay, let me get
regardless of whether it was that or not,
Yeah.
you cannot attack an animal. It's as clear as that.
But Sharmishta, isn't the Congress also playing politics on the back of this poor wounded Shaktiman? When Harish Rawat says, oh, this displays the BJP's intolerance, you are bringing in your tolerance versus intolerance politics into the plight of this poor Shaktiman. You are sitting back enjoying this. You're not answering why police mounted on horses is used to, why can't the police just do what it does in other cities? Why do you need horses for crowd control?
Firstly, this is completely a different debate, I would think, but which needs to be addressed, that whether animals should be used, for this kind of
But this kind of statement from Mr. Rawat,
but I
you
would
are
like
using
to,
lathi on a horse, I think the word tolerance is not there.
I would like to also point out, that there are certain discrepancies in the statements given by Mr. Ganesh Joshi ji. For example, on his Facebook, he had admitted on the 15th March. See, that while we were sitting on dharna, before that, during the protest, a horse hit our party worker, 28-year-old Munni, who suffered an injury on the chest. I snatched a stick from the politician and tried to stop the animal from attacking others.
Yes.
So he is trying to say the horse attacked.
He is saying that.
He is saying that. So firstly, it's not the animal, it's the trained police horse. It's not going to go on a rampage attacking others, so that itself should be. Secondly, as Shobhaji has pointed out, that he snatched a lathi from the policeman. That itself shows a certain violent streak in the person. That he's a policeman on duty.
I'll put that to Ganesh Joshi in just a moment.
Third, again, he is saying that I strongly condemn the action of the youth involved in this video for pulling the horse, making the poor animal lose his balance and fall and thus injuring himself. I apologize on his behalf.
Yes.
But apology is not enough. What kind of action the party is going to take against this youth, provided it is proved that this is the youth who did it and not he?
Okay, Gauri.
Yeah, absolutely, I agree with that.
Gauri, where do you pin the responsibility of what's happened to Shaktiman? Who all is responsible and at what stages?
Largely, the responsibility must be shouldered by Mr. Ganesh Joshi. There is no backing off from that.
Because, he held up this picture.
Because he
held up this picture and he said, "Ye dekhiye, ghoda mere sahiyogi ko kuchal raha tha, to main lathi pakad ke piche chala."
No. This was not a defense thing at all. There was a protest going on. People were charging, and there was a horse caught in the conflict. He waved his lathi and hit him at least 5-6 times.
You are sure of that?
I am absolutely sure of that.
You are sure of that,
This
and
is
you're
the
basing that on
official
witness
version.
accounts?
Yes, witness accounts of responsible senior officials. Then from the front, and that's when the horse backed off. This was absolutely not the horse that charged at anyone whatsoever. The horse backed off, and at the same time there was an attack from the side. It has to be Mr. Ganesh Joshi's responsibility, because he was the leader of that protest. He was the one who was getting all these people there.
Ganesh ji, Gauri ji कहती है कि चाहे आपने लाठी उस जगह ना मारी हो जहां घोड़े को चोट आई, आपने 5-6 बारी लाठी मारी.
गौरी जी को देखिए सुनिए, मेरी बात सुन रही हैं आप?
जी.
हेलो.
हाँ, बोलिए.
आवाज आ रही है?
बोलिए, बिल्कुल आ रही है.
देखिए, गौरी जी जैसे बात कर रही हैं, एक तो गौरी जी कोई जज नहीं है, और दूसरा गौरी वहां पर नहीं थी, जो गौरी वाली ने कॉन्फिडेंस से कह रही हैं कि इसका मतलब कहीं ना कहीं कुछ मुझे मामले में गड़बड़ दिखाई देती है. जब दोनों घटनाओं के बीच में फर्क था, उस दूसरे घटना के फुटेज में आप देखिए, मैं कहीं हूं ही नहीं. और आज तो कल एसएसपी ने भी बयान दिया है कि घोड़े की जो टांग उसने टूटी है, गिरने से हुई है, न कि लाठी से. और मैं लाठी फटकार रहा हूँ जमीन पर.
नहीं, वो कह रही है लाठी, आपकी लाठी वेव करने से घोड़ा डर गया, पीछे हट गया और गिर गया, और फिर बीच में आपके किसी सहयोगी ने.
गौरी तो ऐसे बोल रही है. गौरी जी,
आप पहले बताइए, ये जो कहती हैं कि आपने लाठी 5-6 बारी मारी, गणेश जी, इनका कहना है कि विटनेस कहते हैं कि यू यूज द लाठी, आप डिनाई करते हैं.
देखिए,
डिड यू यूज द लाठी ऑन द हॉर्स?
मुझे गौरी जी का सर्टिफिकेट नहीं चाहिए. मैं अब फिर कह रहा हूं, जब ये घटना भी मैं वहां पर नहीं था, मैंने जब हमारे कार्यकर्ता के ऊपर घोड़ा चढ़ा दिया गया, मैंने और लोगों को बचाने के लिए जमीन पर लाठी फटकारी. उस घटना के बाद में फिर लौट गया. उसके बाद में ये घटना हुई. और सबसे पहली बात, हम निहत्थे थे, हम प्रोटेस्ट कर रहे थे. 1947 के बाद पहली बार ऐसा हुआ है कि घुड़सवार पुलिस को लाया गया. क्या जरूरत थी? हमारे पास कोई वेपन्स नहीं थे, कोई डंडे नहीं थे. हम जिंदाबाद मुर्दाबाद ही तो कर रहे थे. हमारे ऊपर घोड़े क्यों चढ़ा दिए गए?
Let me get Shobha to come in there and then GVL Rao. Shobha, the MLA says, I did not use the lathi. The animal rights activist, who's also an advisor to the minister, Maneka Gandhi, says he did. That dispute will carry on. It will have to be arbitrated in a sense by a neutral party eventually, by the course of the law. But the question the BJP is saying is, why were animals brought in to control a political protest? That's the question from GVL Rao.
Look, that's a much bigger question, and there are mounted police not just in Dehradun and elsewhere. There are mounted police in many cities of India. That is a much bigger debate. It's a question of somebody hit that horse or made that horse fall and suffer those injuries. It doesn't matter whether it was this gentleman who insists he didn't.
Yeah.
And I cannot imagine how anybody can so blatantly deny it. If he's innocent, that's a different story. But there must have been a few hundred people who were witnesses, surely. Why didn't anybody stop this from happening?
Yeah.
They're talking about the horse as if it was a tiger out of a cage attacking innocents, and this brave man is a gladiator who steps in there to make sure that he doesn't injure other people. It's ridiculous. What were the other people doing? I'll tell you what they were doing. They were watching, because no one dared to stop an MLA from doing something as awful, as inhuman and as cruel. They simply did not dare intervene, because we know what happens when MLAs go out of control. They can punish the innocent, they can do anything.
Let me get GVL to respond to that.
It's probably that fear of authority. Fear of authority why people aren't even coming forward to saying that we saw it.
GVL Rao, the question becomes about the eventual moral responsibility. I think even what Gauri is saying here is that even if the horse retreated out of fear and panic because the policeman who was riding the horse was being yanked, or because he saw a lathi, that is still cruelty. That is the argument being made here by the rights activists. Do you accept that, Mr. Rao?
It is.
No, Barkha, let me say this. First of all, putting animals into a conflict situation, vulnerable situation, is a big crime by itself. And Uttarakhand government must actually, I think they must apologize for doing it, and they must never repeat it. And if such rules don't exist, I think state governments must make such a rule. Because you put them into a conflict situation, you use animals with brutal force, mounted on the animals, your people go on lotting political workers, and you think it's fair, but protesters have no right to protest. I think what kind of a precedent are we setting?
Let me get Sharmishta there.
I think firstly we should not use them in conflict situation, number one. Number two, the person concerned, the MLA concerned, is clearly denying. And nobody wants to listen. Everybody has an agenda.
He's holding a lathi. He's not
if
denying the lathi.
There is proof that this was done.
Mr. Rao, he is not denying the lathi.
No,
lathi to सच है ना. लाठी पकड़ी हुई है घोड़े के करीब.
No, but you see,
ये तो सच है.
I think we are, Barkha, we are all human beings. We are all sensitive. That's why you have two ministers of the union government protesting severely, and even one of them asking for action.
Yes.
But the reality is, you need to know the facts completely. Without knowing the facts, I think it's an emotional issue. So
Sharmisha, you did not answer my question on the Congress playing.
But it's important. We need to have the
Congress playing politics, and Gauri takes the last word. The Congress playing politics on the back of this poor Shaktiman.
It is not at all.
I'll tell you one thing, Sharmisha. People do not want to. We don't care about Congress, BJP in this. People are just horrified at the plight of this poor animal who can't speak for itself.
I completely agree with you, and in fact, there is no question of playing politics in this. But the fact of the matter is that
when you drag in tolerance, your chief minister drags in the tolerance debate into this.
The MLA has snatched away a lathi from the police. Mr. Narasimha Rao is keeping on repeating this word conflict situation, conflict situation. What conflict situation? It was supposed to be a protest, a normal protest. How did it lead to that situation?
Why were horses set into a normal protest?
Horses set into, I don't know again the rules, whether it is actually within the bit of the review of the rules or not. But again, as I say, that's a different issue altogether in terms of whether to use animals in this kind of situation or not. That's a different debate altogether, and I would like to participate in such a wider context.
But you're saying that doesn't absolve Mr. Joshi?
Absolutely not.
Okay, Gauri, last word to you. You've got to close.
2 points. One is that Mr. Joshi cannot back off from taking responsibility.
Even if he says he did not use the lathi on the horse,
even if he says
and he's holding up this picture which he says घोड़ा कुचल रहा था मेरे सहयोगी को.
No, but that was a different horse. He's showing a picture of a different
Ganesh
horse.
जी, वो दूसरा घोड़ा था जो घोड़ा आपके सहयोगी को कुचल रहा था वो अलग घोड़ा था, शक्तिमान अलग था. ये आप मानते हैं?
जी हाँ, बिल्कुल. अगर आप देखें वीडियोस में, मैं जब लाठी पटक रहा हूँ तो लाल घोड़ा है और शक्तिमान व्हाइट घोड़ा है, और बाद में दोनों, जब मेरे हाथ की लाठी है पटक रहा हूं और बाद वाले को दोनों को क्लब, अगर आप उसकी इंक्वायरी कराएंगे तो दोनों लोगों को क्लब किया गया है और ऐसे शो किया गया है कि जैसे, और जबकि आज पूरा कई चैनलों ने चढ़ाया है उसको दिखाई दे रहा है कि जब ये
आप लाठी दोनों घोड़ों के सामने पटक रहे थे कि एक ही घोड़े के सामने? आप लाठी किस घोड़े के सामने पटक रहे थे आपके अपने अकाउंट में?
आप देखिए, रेड घोड़ा है, देख लीजिएगा आप उस वीडियोस में, फुटेज में।
लाल घोड़ा का सामने को लाठी से पीटना, is it justified?
No, he's claiming I did not use the lathi on the horse, but yeah.
Whichever ghoda he's jumping at, I mean, we have to understand this is a domesticated, trained animal. You know, there was absolutely no need for him to go rescue anyone from the horse because the horse was completely in control. Even when it was being yanked and beaten up from the front, it was still in control. It was still just backing off. It was not breaking anyone's skull over there.
So for you maintain that while the larger debate remains on the use of the horses in this situation.
However, I do question the presence of the horse in a situation like that. There should have been riot control vehicles. The state governments must amend their acts and remove
but you stand by the
unnecessary
fact that the
usage of
MLA has
animals.
to take responsibility.
These are just remnants of a colonial era. There are no
we will have to leave it there. We'll leave you again tonight with the image of Shaktiman who's had to have his hind leg operated. Do remember that horses sleep standing up. Am I right? Horses sleep standing up.
Alternate the legs.
And you have to think of what he's going through. We'll leave it there. Thanks for watching.